Okay.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday. It is the beginning of the week for some. Some it's the middle of the week, but hey, it is the beginning of the week. And I want to welcome all of you all to this Producers Mindset. I'm excited. I wanted to share some things with you on today. And hopefully at the end, I like audience participation. So I'm going to give you some challenging things for you to think about while I share with you a story that I got from a guy named Donald Holland. And it was interesting because one thing that I wanted to say, and many of you know that when I talk about real estate, there's only three ways to do real estate or lead generation. Either you can pay for it, you can go after it, or you can wait for it. And last time we talked, all of those things are together. But I found that one of the best teachers is often the one that challenges us the most. So I wanted to share with you today the story. I don't know whether or not you've heard of this story about the fist, the clay, and the rock. Because when we're dealing with real estate, there was a story about a teacher who was teaching his 12th grade class. And while he was teaching his 12th grade class, what he did was when he came into the room, he placed a rock and he placed a pile of clay, no bigger than a tennis ball. He placed it on the table in front of his students. And he looked at his students and he said, if there were a pill that I could give you that would help you learn and help you want to learn, I would pass it out right now. And he said, but there's no magic pill. So I want to tell you, if there was a magic pill that I could pass out to you right now to tell you how you could win in your real estate career right now, I would give it to you right now freely. You wouldn't have to pay for it. But I wanted to let you know what this teacher did. He said, listen, I want you to look at my fist. And he started waving his fist around. And while he was raising his fist around, everybody was like, what's going on? What's going on? And so while he was raising his fist, he looked down and he pointed at that lump of clay. And then he took his fist and he hit the clay down. He just spashed it on the table, and he looked at his students and he was still smiling at them. And they were like, well, what is going on? He said, well, what I want you to look at, he said, my fist is what the real world is. My fist is everything that's going on in the world. My fist is the good times. My fist is the bad times. And I want to let you know that in your life or in your career, life is going to happen. There is going to be a real world situation that this fist is going to happen. There's going to be times when life is going to take a swing at you. And maybe you're already there. Maybe you've already had that happen. And so when he took that fist and he smashed that clay, he said, now I want you to look at this. He said, the world that I hit, I just smashed the clay and it flattened it. It was over. It flattened it. It took it out of the game because he flattened it with his fist. Now, he said, what happens if when life happens, it flattens you out? What happens when life happens when it stops you from doing the things that are necessary in order to make this happen? He said, we have the clay, the life hit the clay, but it flattened it. And he asked the students, he said, well, how do you feel when life hits you and it knocks you out of the game? And many of us have been there. Many of us who've been in the industry a while have been that clay. When the market fell, we were that clay. We were that clay that it took us out of the business. There's some people that were in the business when I started, they're now doing a 9 to 5 or working full time. There's some people that allowed that clay to happen. And so what he did was he said, okay, now I'm going to take this situation, I'm going to take the things that are going on in the world and I'm going to hit the rock. He said, what do you think is going to happen to the rock? And the student said, nothing. And he said, why? They said, because the rock is a rock. The rock is going to remain hard. The rock is going to stay stiff. The rock is going to be steady because it was a rock. It caused it to be a rock. And so in this business, you have to ask yourself this question: do you want to be the clay or do you want to be the rock? Now, the clay is going to get hit. The clay is going to get smashed, but the rock is going to stay steady. Now, what did it take for the rock to become a rock? The rock had to go through some things in order for it to become that rock. In order for it to become that rock, it had to have certain deposits that were built up in order to make that rock. Now, when we see a rock, we don't necessarily look at the process that it took for that rock to become a rock. And so in our business, what is our rock? Our rock is our education. Our rock is our training. Our rock is our mentors. Our rock is those that help us learn the business in order to help us grow further. It is those deposits that make us who we are. There is nobody that just came out the womb and then all of a sudden they knew everything. It required some education. It required some hope. It required some encouragement. It required for people to lift us up when we were down. It required us to look at the things in our life and see what it is that we're going to change so that we don't remain clay. Now, of course, when we're learning, we're going to be pliable, we're going to be movable, but we also have to be that rock. So the question that I ask you on this bright and early morning, what do you see yourself? And I want you to go ahead and unmute yourself when I ask this question. How do you see yourself when it comes to the clay and the rock and the world that's coming around you? Go ahead, somebody say something.
I'll go ahead, Fred.
Go ahead, Nina. Thank you.
So you're welcome. So I definitely identify with the rock. I'm no clay for sure. Clay is not a part of my world. I embrace adversity. I embrace all challenges, and I just keep trucking along. And what you were saying about what makes you a rock is your training, your mentors. The first thing I thought about was the support. But even more than that, it's just you have to have a lot of strength and a lot of conviction within yourself, which I do, because this is my first real shift. And for whatever reason, it actually inspires me to go through whatever, and that's just in life in general. Nothing really gets me down. And I think a lot of that for me is just my spiritual connection to God, and just knowing that his plan is greater than any plan I could have for myself. I lean on that so much that I'm just, the way that I'm built and the way that I see things, I for the most part, I'm just extremely optimistic. So I know, without really knowing like when it's going to happen, I know that it's going to happen. Sorry for the background noise, I'm walking my dog. So the rock for me it symbolizes strength, courage, tenacity, not giving up, constantly growing, never becoming complacent with yourself, but always constantly growing and looking for ways to just be better. And being consistent with your efforts. So yeah, I love this rock clay method. I love it because you're right. A lot of agents have left the business, and this is when we really can take our market share. This is when we can really hone in on our skill set, look at the areas where we can be better, lean on our fellow realtor friends and mentors, and really just brush up and do the activity. I think a lot of people just make it so complicated. We just have to continue doing what we're doing. Don't reinvent the wheel, just do more of it.
Thank you, Nina. I appreciate that. You are always inspiring. I always love your inspiring.
I love you,
Appreciate it.
Fred.
Appreciate it. Shireen, you
Oh,
unmuted.
I want to just go on what she said in that we are so blessed in this particular, shop of KW because we have such structure and the mentors and everyone, and we have people with whom we can commiserate because it's not easy every day, and we wouldn't do it if it was easy every day because then we would get bored. It takes a certain type of person to be in sales or want to get in sales to overcome things, which I've seen. We've got a lot of overcomers at KW, that is for sure. But I am so grateful that no matter where we are in our momentum, like I'm a little slow today, I'm a little cozy, the weather, I don't know, but I'm like, that's cool because I'll just read a couple pages of this thing and be reminded of where I can start. You are able to come as you are and start right where you are when you're somewhere like this because we have so many people around us. We're not floating around aimless, but like wheel inventing, that is so me. So I get it. And I think that's just us, wanting to operate at a higher and higher level every time that we forgot that there are some things that we do not have to do, just do more of, like she said.
Thank you, Shireen. I must tell you guys encourage me. I come here for you guys to encourage me, even when I'm doing the class. So go ahead, Don. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Definitely, I would say definitely a rock. Reason being, this business can have its ups and downs, but it's all about how you approach it. And you have to approach it by a positive mindset and just surround yourself with people that are on that same road path of staying positive, looking at if there's lemons, there's always ways to make lemonades. There's always lemonade. There's always something you can learn from it. So I always look at it as, what is this moment teaching me? What can I learn from it? And one thing that I always have in front of me is a sign that says, face your fear, do something every single day that makes you uncomfortable, and ask yourself, what did you learn from it? So you always have to look at it again, not as this market is hard, but what can it teach me now, and take that forward. Just persevere.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Listen, and I remember, I think Nina touched on this sometime last week, but I put it in a different thing. Do not let the market dictate your business. Do not let the market dictate your business. You're going to hear a whole lot from Fernando. You're going to hear a whole lot from Chris. You'll hear a whole lot from CNN and Fox News and Channel 4. You'll hear all this information about the market, but that does not dictate the funds that you put in your pocket. You make the decision. You have to make the conscious decision to be that rock in the midst of what's going on around you. And you have to be able to shift in any given situation on what's going on. I remember, and I know we have many new agents that are on the call, and you say, well, how can I be a rock if the rock takes all this other deposits that are coming in? Guess what? You were a rock even before you started your real estate career. Did you know that? You already started the development of becoming a rock. That's how come you made it through the class. That's how come you made it through the test, because those deposits were already being developed. Now you take those deposits as you become that rock and you make it work for you. You take your challenges, just like Don said, you take those challenges and you make them work for you. I remember, when I started, I didn't want to talk to people in my church, and my coach said, well, you got to talk to somebody. And so I created my niche. I decided I'm going to work with distressed property owners. And guess what? I did not know anything at first, but I studied, I learned, I asked questions, I went to classes, I took webinars, I did everything that I could do to learn my niche. And so when I did that, that is how I became successful. I became a rock in what I did. Now, a rock starts off as a pebble, and then it grows and then it grows. There's some people that are going to be pebbles. There's some people that are going to be big boulders, but you have to be able to learn from each and every facet of your real estate career. Just like Shireen said, you have the best of all worlds at KW. There is no, in colloquial, there's no rock left unturned at KW. There is often the ability to ask the questions that you need to ask until you get where you need to be in your business, whether it be by book, whether it be by webinar, whether it be by in person. The wonderful thing is you can go to any office, talk to anybody, and get your questions answered. Does anybody else have a question or comment about being a rock or clay? Nobody?
Good morning, Fred.
Good morning,
Chris here.
Christine.
Good morning. You know, it's funny when you started this analogy, it was a huge aha for me because I took it from a completely different perspective in terms of when you present the rock versus clay. I immediately thought that we as realtors, we need to be clay because we need to mold and adjust and be pliable to be able to adapt. And that being a rock meant that you were stayed and unmoving in your thoughts and your patterns. So it was a complete aha for me, you presenting it as the reverse, that we are the rock, that we bring the knowledge that we've gleaned in our life experiences to the table, and then can serve others who are going through all of that pliableness. So great analogy. Thank you for introducing that.
Thank you, Christine. Really appreciate it. And I thank you for going that route, because that's why I talked about the rock, the clay, but then we looked at the fist. The fist was the thing that did that. Now, many of you, I haven't, I've been in the snow a couple of times, but I've never been, really into the snow. But what happens is something that's small starts rolling down the hill. And as it starts rolling down the hill, it begins to create momentum and it gets larger. So as a rock never begins just as a huge rock. It always begins as something small. And all of the things that are around it is the thing that attaches to it and makes it larger and larger and larger. Because we know that a boulder does not all of a sudden become a boulder. It comes from something else. And so as we are in this business, although we start off as clay, we continue to roll into the prospects of what we need to do in order to make our business grow and make it stronger so that the fist doesn't tear us apart. That is so on point, Christine, because it is possible for us to think on the side, well, I'm to be pliable, but how long are you going to be pliable enough that the fist will come down and smash you? And then you have to say, I got to start all over. It's sort of like, now, this is no judgment on anybody, but when I was in junior high school, I used to tell people I used to cuss like a sailor. And I told my mama that, and my mama said, you don't even know how a sailor cusses. But I used to cuss like a sailor, and I made a conscious decision. And I remember the moment. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what was going on. I was on the quad and I was looking around people and I said, why am I trying to conform? Now, mind you, this is in junior high school. I said, why am I trying to conform to all these people around me by cussing and doing all that? I said, I'm going to make a conscious effort to not cuss anymore. And so I made that conscious effort. And I would go a couple of months and then I would say a word and then I would say, man, I got to start all over. And I would continue to do that. And every time I would cuss, I would say, I have to start all over. And so now in my older age, you won't see me saying any words that are cuss words, but that doesn't make me any better than anybody else. So I tell people, if you need to do it, you can go ahead and say it all around me. It's just that's something that I made a conscious effort to do. And so when we make that conscious effort to do something, whether it's lead generation, build our business to the highest capability as possible, we're going to remember the process in which it took us to get to where we are. And we're going to use that as a foundation, not to judge anyone else around us, but we're going to use that as a situation in order to make us better, because we don't always stay the same. We always change. Now, the question is, are you going to change for the better? Or are you going to change for the worse? There's only two directions you can go, because there's only a yes and no. There's never a maybe, because it always ends up in one of those situations. Because if somebody asks you, are you going to do something? You say maybe. It's either going to be a no or it's going to be yes down the end of the line. So why don't you cut the line and answer it either yes or no? Got it? Anybody else? We've got 6 minutes. Yes, Jeanette.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm new here. I mean, not new with KW, but new with all this, listening to everybody. And it's just mind blowing right now, just listening to you about the clay and the rock and the analogy. And I love it. It's all about the training and being better every day for our clients. And being in the business for such a long time, it's an evolution for me. Trying to embrace everything that is happening so fast in our industry. I'm trying to catch up with everything. It seems like everything's changing so quickly, and it's just doing the work. And I always go back to the basics. It's having those relationships with our clients and building those relationships very strongly will get us there to our to where we need to be, whether it's making more money or changing lives, whatever it is. It's those connections that we intentionally do and do on a daily. So I really appreciate this this group, and I'm a little nervous because I'm not one to talk all the time.
Well, awesome.
Thank you so much, Fred, for this morning. It's been amazing.
Well, I say this, we've had an example just this morning of another layer growing on Jeanette, that making her harder as a rock because she's coming out of her comfort zone. Did you know every time you come out of your comfort zone, you create another layer? So it's awesome that she came on. So we welcome you, and hopefully I thank you that you are enjoying this. Now listen, when we look at lead generation is always niche based. It's always what you are going to concentrate on. And so I encourage you to find out what your niche is. We're having at KW South Bay on Wednesday at 1:30 our productivity class. We're doing a niche down, Kim, and niche down, we're attacking our niche. And it's going to be 3 ways that we're going to attack it. And so I told everybody to wear their fatigues, their green fatigues, so that we can go in and attack our niche. Because if you're going to grow, you're going to work on what your niche is, and you're not going to let anybody deter you. You're going to find 3 areas of attack for your niche, and then you're going to go and move in it. You've never known anybody to join an army and just sit around and do nothing. There was a TikTok video that I saw. I wish I had it. There was a TikTok video that I saw about 3 men working. There were 2 men carrying a door, and the other one was like pretending like he was carrying the door. And then when they threw it up, he gave him a high five like he did something. Well, you can't be that person, that third person, pretending like you're doing something and carrying the weight. You got to go out and do it. Go out and do it. So I'm encouraging you guys, listen, real estate is a contact sport. So the question that I have for you today, with 1 minute left, well, 1.5 minutes left, is what in your business are you going to attack today in order to increase your revenue? Because listen to this. If you like to help people, you're going to make money. And if you want to make money, you're going to end up helping people. Okay? So I want you to catch that. Okay? All right, Pamela, you are a rock. Remember this. Remember this. If you are in the business, say, oh, I just want to help people. Well, you're going to help people and you're going to make some money. And then if you're in the business, say, oh, I want to make some money. Guess what? You're going to make some money, but you can also end up helping people. Because in our business, there is no way that you can get out of it without helping people and without making some money if you treat it as a contact sport. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. It'll be, Leanna, it'll be at KW South Bay. Yes, KW South Bay. Our productivity classes every Wednesday at 1:30 if you wanted to come in and drop in. So, but remember, if you're having something in your market center, don't show up at our market center. Thank you. Okay.
Oh
So
God.
I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this this morning mindset on today. Go out and get it. Make sure you make contact. Let somebody know that you're a realtor. Get some deals done in the coffer. Make it happen. All right. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cher.
You guys have an awesome day.